Hi, my name's Kash Hovey. I host On Air with Kash on YouTube. I'm honored to be a guest on Elias's show, the Man Cave Chronicles podcast. I currently have Undateable John on Amazon Prime, as well as Hollywood.con, directed by Mika Boorem on Amazon Prime. You can watch Mayhem of the Mind coming soon, and please tune into our show On Air with Kash on YouTube.
Kash, welcome to the cave.
Elias, thank you so much. I'm honored to be here.
We've been following each other for months now. We've been watching each other's shows, man, and this is fun to have you on the show. We'll talk about a little about your show as well and everything else.
Oh, looking forward to it. This is amazing. I'm honored to be in the cave.
There you go, man. So yeah, look, Sean, I was doing some research on you, man. The listeners recently saw you in Hollywood.con, where we we both had Mika on. You're good friends with her.
Yes.
It's gonna be an exciting time, and you also have your show On Air with Kash. You've been busy the last few years, man.
It's been a great couple years. I'm very fortunate. I know Mika, I've known since we were kids, and we shot that a while back. And then It was really recently, the last couple of months, she hit me up. And it's amazing too, because it was right when she reached out, Hollywood.con's released. She came on my show. I know she did your show. And literally every time I turn on the TV, one of her movies from when we were kids is on TV.
I know, it's crazy. We'll dive right into that too. But before we get into you and your projects, man, like, how did you decide that, you wanted to get into entertainment industry? Like, what made you fall in love with it?
I always remember Back to the Future and Beverly Hills Cop were always on TV. Ninja Turtles, Ghostbusters, all that was huge. And me and my friends, we had like Ghostbuster gear. We had like the packs, and then we were always like recreating scenes from Back to the Future. And so we were just always putting on plays and performing. And then when we were able to have when my dad trusted us with his video camera before I got my own, this was long before we all had iPhones. We could just pull them out. We had cameras in our pockets, basically. Right. We were just always making videos with friends in the neighborhood who are, actors and musicians and are doing really well now. So it's been a fun journey.
You mentioned a lot of 80s movies. You're an 80s junkie like me. I love the 80s.
Such an 80s. I just feel like that's the soundtrack of my childhood. Those movies were always on. I mean, my dad was always watching like Fast Times, Animal House, Beverly Hills Cop, Back to the Future. Those were, I feel like those were the movies I was raised on.
That's awesome, man. Where did you grow up?
I grew up in Sherman Oaks.
Oh, okay. All right. So
I'm a Valley boy.
What's that?
I'm a Valley boy.
There you go. So who did you look up to in the acting world? Was there anybody that you also looked up to?
Oh, absolutely. Well, I mentioned Back to the Future, so definitely a huge Michael J. Fox fan. Okay. He was always just all of his other movies too, like Back to the Future, Secret of My Success. I watched so many of those growing up. And then probably when I was around 11, I actually don't judge my mom. She's amazing. She let me watch Pulp Fiction with her when I was 11 because everyone in my class had seen it. So she didn't want me to be singled out. And so really that's got me into Tarantino, and I got really into Pulp Fiction. I watched, and then gradually, with Jackie Brown, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. And also when I was a little kid, like Leonardo DiCaprio's career was really taking off. I'd already watched Gilbert Grape in his earlier work. And then so when Titanic happened, it was like I was already very familiar with his work and already a fan. And so I feel like I'm really, he was always someone I looked up to, as well as just his acting roles, his passion for film. And there's just so many, I could go on with just so many different actors and filmmakers at different points in my life.
You mentioned Leo. You can't forget that he was on Growing Pains.
Yeah. Oh, of course. Yes.
A lot of people forget that. A lot of people forget that.
He was Luke. I remember, especially leading up to when Titanic came on, they were always playing those Growing Pains reruns.
So when did you go to school for acting? Like, what was like one of the first things you did after you graduated high school? What was the plan?
Well, I started acting, I guess when I really started pursuing it, it was in middle school. I was in the school plays. Then when I started high school, I was in an acting workshop, which did lead to me getting an agent. And then I studied, there was like Daphne Kirby. She was in the Valley. I did study at Ivana Chubbuck's studio. I studied with, who else? Gosh, I mean, there were just so many different seminars and great programs I did. And then I did study theater and film at LA City College and Cal State Northridge.
Oh, wow. I did, when I was doing some research on you, I did notice that. Did you do stand-up classes too?
Okay, I did do a stand-up class prior to the pandemic, and I did have my first stand-up show, which was virtual.
Oh, wow. How did that go?
I think it went better because it was virtual. I'll be honest. I just getting up and telling jokes. I was so terrified about about getting up live. So I felt like, okay, this will be a good buffer or a good practice run where I could go up and, it was a good practice for me because I was in my studio. I told, in certain jokes, you could tell which ones the audience responded to, and then you could tell where there's crickets. So, but the process I have so much respect for. I have a lot of friends who are comedians who I've worked with and collaborated with. So it was a muscle I wanted to exercise. And so, anyway, I'm glad I had that opportunity.
Would you ever do it now that things are opening up? Would you ever like try to go open mic?
I'd consider. I don't know what I talk about now. I mean, what I learned too is just even get just the material, like really talking about what's oh gosh, like what you're going through and then how it relates to an audience. I mean, it's a different process of writing because I've written comedy, and like me, I'm much more of a, I want to study the scene, give me a few takes. I mean, the thing with stand-up is you're live, you really have, you have to execute the joke. It's all about timing. And, but yeah, I mean, it's a challenge, but it's definitely, I mean, I have so much respect for anyone who does comedy and gets up there. And yeah, I would totally do it. Yeah.
Yeah. What do you have to lose at this point, right?
Exactly.
So before the pandemic, you also did a project, Mayhem of the Mind. Is that right?
That's correct. Yes.
Yeah. Tell us about that.
Okay, Mayhem of the Mind. That was actually my second collaboration with Kathy Kola. She came to me with this brilliant idea. So it's kind of like a Twilight Zone, Black Mirror on Netflix kind of a vibe. And so basically we shot the pilot during one weekend. It was great. Basically, it's Kathy and my good friend Ron Robinson, who I've collaborated with on numerous projects. They're this married couple. They move into this neighborhood, and for some reason, everybody looks like me. So there's a So it was really cool to play some different characters and see where it leads up to. And we premiered it at Film Fest LA Live, November, just before the pandemic. We won about 5 awards. And it was just a blast. I love working with Kathy and Ron, and Film Fest LA Live has just been a great platform for upcoming artists. So the whole process was great. Oh, and I got to give my mom her first real on-screen role as well too. My mom's been in the business forever, but this was her first time like on screen. Wow. So it was, it was great that we got to work with each other on that level as well. You
mentioned it was a pilot. Was like the plan to try to make more episodes of this?
Oh yes, Kathy has a few scripts, and actually, I actually met up with Kathy about a week ago, and she has some new scripts. So once everything's, fully opened, we want to go back to work and get the show going.
So what's the plan? Like a streaming service for it?
Yes. Well, so we have the pilot. We're still shopping that one around. She's had some meetings. There's a few platforms that we think would, that would be a good fit for it. And but we still want to keep cranking them out regularly.
Yeah. You mentioned platforms. What's your favorite these days?
Oh gosh. I really did get into Amazon the last year. And I do have to say, because there's 2 movies. Well, Mika's movie, Hollywood.con. I have a cameo on that. And then Undateable John. That's on Amazon Prime. And there was a Tinder dating comedy I did a while back that was on Amazon Prime as well too. It was called As in Kevin. Oh gosh. Oh, and Hulu's great too, because there's just so many new movies and shows that it's turned me on to, and Netflix, man, it's there's so much great content out there.
It's like, and it feels like every day there's something new that's coming out for streaming.
Oh, exactly.
Pretty soon cable's gone. It's all streaming.
I know, actually it's a big thing because my dad, I actually just got him into the apps and different streaming services, and he's like, Cash, I'm cutting the cable.
I know, man, it's tough. So Hollywood.con, how did you get involved with that film? Did you know Mika before did you know her before this?
Oh yeah, I knew Mika when Mika was always like, well, I don't have to tell you, I mean, she was in everything basically in the 2000s. So when we were growing up, she was in all these hits like Blue Crush, The Patriot, Riding in Cars with Boys, Along Came a Spider. And so I was filming a movie called Jack and Cocaine, which is available on Vimeo now. And we were filming that in Venice and Melrose. And I remember she actually called me and said, hey, Cash, I'm filming in Venice. Would you do a cameo in this movie for me? I'm like, you know what? I'm actually filming in Venice. What time do you need me? And I really just went in and shot it during our lunch break. And then it was great. I got to work with Mika and then shoot the cameo, and then went back to filming my film. And then it was actually, the funny thing too was right around that time I had just done Undateable John with which Tom Arnold is in. So she was like, oh yeah, Tom Arnold's in this movie. So I just love with Mika, I just feel like our worlds are always kind of colliding or meeting up, I should say.
Yeah, that's awesome. And you played the barista in that one, right? Yeah. The agitated barista.
Or actually, it's the rightfully agitated barista. That's how they credited me.
So did you even like, how do you like even prepare for something like that? You just kind of like had like 2 lines and you pretty much went there, did it quickly?
Pretty much, yeah.
Left?
Mika's just she told me the cast. She's like, oh yeah, I got all these great cameos. We'd love to have you. And I'm like, yeah, sure, bring it up. So I rolled in, and she gave me the general gist. And the other actor that I was working off, if he was so brilliant, so funny, and it was just even me trying to keep a straight face and be agitated with him was it was great. We did it a few different ways. Mika liked what I did, and I'm so happy for her. I mean, she's been on a roll since it came out, and yeah, Mika's just a very passionate artist. She really cares about her work. We actually just shot something yesterday, which was incredible. We got to use a drone, and yeah, I was just really honored to be part of it, and that she considered me for this.
That's awesome. So I mentioned earlier also that you you have a show, Air with Kash. Tell us about that. Like, how did you come up with that idea? What made you jump into it?
Oh, absolutely. Well, like I said, I was working, I had taken I was doing stand-up and stunt training right before the pandemic. So I'm glad I got to get, those were like my last in-person, what should I say? Yeah, like my last in-person activities before we closed up. And I'd really been into podcasts. I'd been working with some great comedians the years prior, and just so many, whether they were colleagues of mine or artists I had looked up to. A lot of people were doing podcasts, you included, sir. It's great to be here. And I was, so basically what had started was we were doing Instagram lives with other colleagues, and and this is right when the pandemic started. So we were really talking about what we were going through, what we were, just different creative outlets we were working on during this time. And then, but my goal really was to have a talk show or podcast. And so really it was after taking the classes, after having the virtual show and interviewing different people, I just really invested in some new equipment. I got a new setup. And my dad actually, the sign that I used, my dad had actually gotten that for me for my birthday last October. And it had a good sound to it. So I'm like, well, let's call the show that. And so then we, right away, I reached out to my good friend, Jackie Moore, who's has a lot of movies on Lifetime right now. She's been in The Westworld, The Odd Couple, and My Nightmare Best Friend was on Lifetime. She was great in that. And so anyway, she came on, we talked, and it was great. I've really been fortunate for a lot of the guests that we've had. Everyone's very interesting. I really admire the work that they've done. And I feel like really with the show too, is whenever there's like a mutual respect, or actually this is something interesting that happened. So my publicist, he put me in touch with Jesse Kove from Cobra Kai, and we had him on the show. And I was a big fan of the series. I had met Jesse a few times prior to that, just, in the industry and at events and stuff. And when we talked, our lives paralleled a lot too, as far, well, he grew up around Karate Kid, obviously, from his father, but like Pat Johnson was the first sensei that I broke a board with, and he's the referee in the Karate Kid movies. And so I felt like it just really added to a great conversation. We were both fascinated with the same films and the same had similar upbringings. So I mean, like, that was an inspirational experience. And then even with Mika, I mean, that was just, like I said, we'd grown up together, and it was right when her movie came out that we're like, okay, let's get on the show. And then even just when we look at our timelines and the stuff we went through. So I really like to engage with artists, and I just feel like different artists who I respect, they inspire me.
So when you first started like doing the show and everything, like did you also reach out to guests? Like, first of all, it's like, are you a one-man person? Do you do everything, or do you have people that are actually helping you out with the show?
Oh, no, I'm definitely a team player. Actually, my mom's, she's a producer, and she books the talent on the show, and she's also directed a few episodes. So, no, and my mom's always been there for me. She's supported me throughout my career. And so I give high level of respect to my mother. And no, she's really helped me out with this. And yeah, there are a few people that I'm friends with that I've reached out to. Next week, we actually have Courtney Palm, who's an old friend of mine. She was in Zombievers, and she has 3 movies coming out this year. Oh, she was also in Sushi Girl. And yeah, so we had a really long talk about just her career, her films. That should be coming out, I believe, next week. We shot it. So yeah, there's certain people that I've been able to just contact and be like, hey, let's come on the show. Let's have a good time. And then there's other publicists that my mom has relationships with that she'll reach out to. So yeah, I mean, it's we're a family business, and we complement each other.
Yeah, it's a little bit of everything. Kind of like, like there's days where I get pitches and I decide who I want to put on, and there's other days where it's like total silence. You ever get like that with your show too?
That does happen. There's certain days there's nothing going on, and that's honestly, and I mean, I've been really because I'm in such a go mode all the time. I'm ready to just boom. But even when it's when it's radio silent, I'm like, you know what, I need to go to the driving range, or I need to just let me get another workout. And I'd really try to balance myself with activities and just be like, okay, this is time to let go. And then tomorrow, then you get 5 emails. Oh, great. Now I got a book. Now I got next week's covered.
Do you ever sit there sometimes like in front of your computer? I do it sometimes too. Like I put my kids to bed. I'm like, all right, I'll go on IMDb or something like who can I go after and then start writing pitch emails. Do you ever do that?
Oh gosh. Oh, I was actually talking to a friend of mine about this, or I think I was talking, we had a conversation. Basically, it's so hard for me to watch a movie or show now without opening my computer and be like, oh, I wonder who that actor is. Who are they rep by? Or you're always so fascinated by, or like, oh wait, I met that person. Yeah, we hosted something together a while back, and oh, we have the same agent or the same manager. Oh gosh, that actually happened recently. There was my manager repped, had 2 clients, and I mean, it was kind of similar with my publicist, where it was just, hey, let's collaborate and get each other on the show. So we had Brandon Stewart and Symonne Harrison, both are doing great things. So, because of our manager, that worked out. And then, then there's other times too, when, I'll be watching stuff, I'll tell my mom, hey, what did you think of this show? What do you think of this actor? And my mom's the same way, because we're always binging different shows. My mom will come to me with ideas, and it's like, hey, I just saw this show. What do you think of this actor? So yeah, we're always just, it's amazing the way my mind
I'm the
works.
same way. Like we'll be watching something. My wife's like, why are you grabbing your phone? It's like, I'm about to send an email to try to get this person on, because we're just watching this. Because
I'm guilty of the same thing.
That's the same thing.
When me and my mom have like our weekly dinners, or like our like weekly binge things, we'll be like, okay, that's what are your ideas? And then we'll be watching something, and then a new idea will come up.
Right. Who's been your favorite interview so far that you've done?
Oh, wow. There's been a few of those. Oh gosh. It's really hard for me to say exactly which one, but oh my goodness. Well, yeah, I'll start. Mika was just incredible, as I said, because of our history, we'd grown up together, and then to have something that we both worked on, that was amazing. Jesse's was amazing as well. And then this was a special one too. We had Samantha Bailey, who's on Just Add Magic. She's awesome. And also my Ron, who I told you about, Ron Robinson, his daughter loves Just Add Magic. So that came up in the conversation. Samantha gave a shout out to Soleil, Ron's daughter. So that was a special episode. And then Jax Malcolm, he's incredibly talented kid. He's been on Crazy Ex-Girlfriend, and actually him and Samantha, I had my good Caitlin O'Connor was another one too. She's been American Satan, Paradise City, both on Amazon. And so we were on the show, or we had her on the show. We did an interview, and Caitlin's one of my dear friends. And we were talking about social media, and then TikTok came up, and we were both saying, yeah, we don't understand TikTok. We're like, oh, we're getting old. That's the one social media we don't get. And I referenced, because Jax and Samantha were both big into TikTok, and they're doing videos. So I referenced both of them in the interview, and then they reached out and said, hey, Kash, why don't you and Caitlin come over, and we'll show you how it's done. We'll do a TikTok day. So it was cool that that came out of me and Caitlin having a conversation. And then we had 2 colleagues of ours reach out and be like, hey, let's take the show live and let's have a fun activity.
Yeah. So you keep mentioning Jesse, and like I had him on the show also during the last season of Cobra Kai, man. He's very down to earth, very nice guy.
Yeah, that's what I got. I always got that impression from him when I met him. And really, when I got to sit down and do the interview, that's what I got from him as well, too. Much respect towards Jesse. I think he's very driven. He's very motivated. And I'm really happy that you've had him on, that I've had him on. I'm just happy for him and all of his success.
Dream guest. Do you have a dream guest that you want to try to get on?
Oh gosh, there's been a few. Who would I say? I do want to give a shout out to Michael Rosenbaum, because he was actually one of the reasons that made me, right before the pandemic, he was someone who he turned me on to his show. We were working together, and I was just really fascinated by his podcast, which is he calls it Inside of You with Michael Rosenbaum. Right. And it was just really the way that he engaged with his guests, and he really cares. And there were a few episodes in particular that meant something to me, just as far as the dialogue and how much he cared about his guests. And he was really moved by that. And he really shared with me the behind the scenes. And so he was definitely an inspiration for me wanting to do the show. And if we get to work with each other again, or down the line he wants to come on, that'd be an honor. Yeah.
It's funny that you just said that, because I just sent out an email earlier today to try to get him on. I've tried a few times. He is really hard to get on.
He's always busy.
Yeah. And he's always doing
something. We were always gosh, I mean, even when we were working together, he was just showing me different pictures, and I forgot how many things that he had done. I mean, I always remembered him growing up with like Smallville, and then it was funny too because they kept playing Bringing Down the House, the Steve Martin movie, and he's such a comedy guy. He loves Batman, Michael Keaton, and then he was telling me stories about Steve Martin, and then getting to meet Michael Keaton. So Michael's if you get him, definitely, he's a great guy.
So besides when you're not working and you're not working on the show, like what do you enjoy doing in your time off?
Lately, well, I just got some new golf clubs, so I've been at the driving range a lot. There's a few spots in LA that we've been going to. I love going to movies. I know it's been so hard to do that. I did actually get to go to a drive-in of Godzilla vs. King Kong the last couple months. Really can't wait to get out and see the theaters again. And then what else? And I rollerblade. I rollerblade a lot too. I got some new blades as well.
Yeah. Well, what's next for you? Any other like projects that you got coming out?
Right now, my focus is the show, and I had a meeting with Kathy Cola last week. I'm talking to some other colleagues, and we are scheduled to have another Kash Hovey and Friends film block at Film Fest LA Live in November. So we'll have some new content by then. And right now I just want to focus on the show, enjoy the summer, take some meetings, and I can't wait to get back to work. I'm so glad that the everything's reopening again.
Yeah, oh yeah, definitely. For the listeners and the viewers, how can they find you on social media, and how can they find your show also?
Absolutely. So my name is Kash. It's Kash. My last name is Hov, as in Victor, EY. I'm at Kash Hovey on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, and my show On Air with Kash. It's On Air with Kash, but the S is a $, and that's on YouTube. Please reach out, follow. We love collaborating, and we really appreciate everyone's support. And Elias, I can't thank you enough for having us on today.
Oh, you're welcome. Kash, this was great. Thanks for coming on.
Anytime.